Good morning. Buddha Dharma is daily life. It's one of the doctrinal mottos of Won Buddhism that you can find at the very beginning of the scriptures of Won Buddhism. What comes to your mind when you hear the phrase Buddha Dharma is daily life? Buddha Dharma is what Buddha taught based on the truth he awakened to. Buddha Dharma, when I first heard it, sounded like something only monks or ministers can learn in their monastic life. But it's saying Buddha Dharma is daily life. It means Buddha Dharma is what we can apply in our secular daily life. It also means let us apply Buddha Dharma to our secular daily life so that Buddha Dharma becomes our daily life. What would happen if Buddha Dharma becomes our daily life and we apply it when using our mind, or we apply it to our relationships with someone or to our work? We can illuminate our life with Buddha Dharma. We can renew our life. Have you ever experienced a change after applying Buddha Dharma in your life? I can personally say that I become a much better version of a person after applying it in my life. Not the best, but a much better one. For many years, I had a deep resentment towards my mother when I was young. I resented her because I couldn't understand why she used a rod almost every day to discipline me when I was young, and also my brother was even younger. When I was in middle school, I had this anxiety issue and cried almost every day. And there were times when I said really hurtful things to so many people. I could go on and tell you what a terrible person I was at times, but I'll just stop here. What I do want to point out is that the Buddha Dharma has changed my life in a significant way. Before, I only felt resentment towards my mother, but now I know without her nurturing and caring, who I am now wouldn't have existed, and her unfathomable love and dedication in its own way has been utterly selfless. The Buddha Dharma has also helped me realize that I'm not a person with anxiety, nor was I at any point in my life. I know that I, like everyone else, cannot be defined by those labels and have an innate and infinite possibility. And now, I am able to use my mind better in a more mindful way and stop when disturbances arise before I say anything that will cause harm to others, although it's a practice that I'm still working on. So, I think this idea that Buddha Dharma is something that anyone can apply to their secular life and change their life is simply amazing and such a blessing. But while I was studying the motto Buddha Dharma is daily life, I learned that there is a deeper meaning to it, and that's what I wanted to share with you today. I was reading the third Prime Dharma Master Daesan's book, in which he elaborated on the essential meanings of the principal book of Won Buddhism. He said that Buddha Dharma is daily life means requiting the graces with one mind. Here, one mind is the state of mind we are trying to cultivate through practicing the threefold study. So requiting the graces with one mind means if you practice cultivating one mind, then use that mind to requite the graces. But Buddha Dharma is daily life, and requiting the graces with one mind. How are they related? Do you see a connection? I learned that to understand the true meaning of this connection, I need to know what Buddha Dharma is. Buddha Dharma, as I mentioned earlier, is what Buddha taught based on the truth he awakened to. Then, what is the truth that he awakened to? The founding master Sotaesan named the truth that he awakened to as Il-One. What is Il-One? One circle. Do you remember the beginning part of the Il-One-Sang vow? It says that Il-One is the original source of heaven and earth, parents, fellow beings and laws, and is the nature of all Buddhas, enlightened masters, ordinary humans, and sentient beings. When I thought about applying Buddha Dharma to my daily life, I think I focused more on the second part, the fact that all people have the truth, the Buddha nature, within them as their original nature. So my practice was more about reflecting on my Buddha nature, the innate and infinite possibility, and about how I could use my mind well based on the principle of the mind, the nature. I realized that I paid less attention to the first part, that Il-One is the original source of heaven and earth, parents, fellow beings, and laws, when I try to apply Buddha Dharma in my daily life. What does it mean that Il-One is the original source of heaven and earth, parents, fellow beings, and laws? The founding master said that if we were to specify the content of Il-One-Sang, it is in fact the fourfold grace. If we were to specify the content of the fourfold grace, it is in fact all things in the universe. So that Il-One is the original source of heaven and earth, parents, fellow beings, and laws, means that the fourfold grace, or all things in the universe as a whole, is the original source of all things in the universe. Does it make sense to you? I still remember one moment when this truth came into my heart. I was eating lunch by myself at home. There was a seaweed dish I like. I was eating it as usual, but then there was this one moment when the thought came to my mind. How did this seaweed get to this dining table and into my mouth? There had to be the sun and the ocean for this seaweed to grow, and people who collected the seaweed, their parents who gave birth to them and raised them, clothing for protection and shelter for them to live, people who made the clothing and shelter for them and their parents, distributors who delivered the seaweed and their parents, everything they needed to survive. The list continued to go on and on. It was endless. In that one moment, I realized that it took the whole universe for this one piece of seaweed to come to my dining table and into my mouth. And seaweed is just one of many things I eat. How do I survive? This seaweed taught me that it takes the whole universe for me to exist. Think about it. It took the whole universe for you to exist. That Ilwon is the original source of all things in the universe means that all things in the universe depend on each other and become the basis of each other in arising and progressing. It means that we are all interdependent and in a relationship where we cannot exist without one another. It is like various parts of your body may have different names and functions, but together they make your whole body come alive, and the whole body makes each part come alive. The founding master Sotaesan declared this relationship of mutual dependence as grace. And he asked the question, if there is a relationship where we cannot live without the other, then where would there be a grace greater than that? We all have felt resentment about something or someone. However, despite the resentment, we still live in a world full of grace. And the grace is much greater compared to what we feel resentful about. For me, I used to hate the feeling of loneliness. At times, I felt like I was all alone in this world. But one day, I realized that I'm not separate from the world. Actually, the whole world has always been there, helping me to exist. Since that moment, I haven't felt lonely. So then, when we try to apply the Buddha Dharma in our daily life, when we try to live with the Buddha Dharma, live with this truth, wouldn't it mean to live a life of gratitude, requiting the graces? One who truly understands the truth will know that because we are living in an interdependent world, the only way to live well in this world is to live a life of gratitude, requiting the graces. I think that's why the founding master Sotaesan included the fourfold grace in his teaching. That's what brings merits and happiness to our life. And when everyone lives a life of gratitude, requiting the graces, peace in this world is possible. Buddha Dharma is daily life, requiting the graces with one mind. While I was preparing for this Dharma talk, I reflected on my practice and thought to myself, although I have been really trying to apply Buddha Dharma to my daily life, how mindful was I about the purpose of requiting the graces in my practice? How often did I actually think cultivating one mind is to requite the graces? Didn't I sometimes forget about the purpose and just focused on working towards goals that I set for myself or trying to achieve something? After this reflection, my practice felt different. Instead of feeling like I was working towards some goals to fulfill my own expectations, when I tried to requite the graces with one mind, full of gratitude, this warmth and joy started to fill up my heart. Doing whatever I can do with my whole heart for the whole world, without which I couldn't exist. No matter how small my effort may seem, I thought this is true happiness. I sincerely wish this talk has been an opportunity for us to reflect on the true meaning of applying Buddha Dharma in our daily life. And I hope you give it a try, requiting the graces with one mind. Thank you.